Cops?
Okay, thanks for meeting with me today. This is for you. Just take your notes. This is our first weekly data meeting. Need a pen. So we're gonna go ahead and start with your success. And I thought a good success would start to start our first weekly data meeting was to celebrate the amount of growth you had on the ACT, which was 6 points. What steps did you take to get kiddos there?
Practice IA questions, practice ACT questions that we both do now throughout every quarter. Review the week of the IA, go over the standards that are most important, that are have the most questions. That's it.
Great.
Oh, and homework.
And homework.
Practice ACT questions.
Yeah, you did a lot of practice ACT, so great job. Okay, so today I want to dive into the standard TD 501. TOD, sorry. Thank you. Determining the relevance of materials in terms of the focus of the essay and questions. Go ahead and take 1 minute. What do students need to be able to know and do to show mastery of the standard? Thank you. Great. Go ahead. What do your students need to be able to know and do?
Determine what material is relevant, and to do that, they have to understand what the actual focus of the paragraph or essay is about based on what the question is asking. And when they talk about the focus of the essay, you actually have to understand the main idea of either the whole essay or the paragraph, and what is it actually, or what is it about before you answer the question.
Great. The only thing that I had all those points, and then I also had they need to know what the definition of relevant is. Cool. Okay. So now I want you to take a look at, we're going to dive into question 1 specifically from this exit ticket. And I want you to look at the teacher exemplar that you have in front of you. What were the keys to an exemplar? Answer.
Like, how did I do it? Annotated it.
For what?
For what the question was asking. We talked about whenever it comes to any TOD standard, you want to read the question first because TOD questions take the most time to answer, but when you have 36 seconds for each question on the English IA, the easiest way to do it is to annotate, TOD questions, find what it's looking for, and then focus in on either that paragraph or skim through the entire essay because it's impossible to read an entire essay in 36 seconds and annotate and find the answer. So for number 1, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
For number 1, if you read the whole question, it says, suppose that at this point the writer wants to provide a detail that emphasizes the intensity of the weather, which choice most effectively accomplishes this goal? Well, the goal was to provide a detail, so I circled provide a detail. Underline emphasizes the intensity of the weather. So of those 4 answer choices, the best one is the one that emphasizes the intensity of the weather. So I had students think about what word or phrases would you use to emphasize the weather that the day we were doing it? How would you explain it and emphasize it? Like what, tell me why it's so important. And those words before, I didn't help them with the exit ticket, but those other questions we did prior to that.
Okay, great. Now I want you to take a look at a student exemplar and compare the student exemplar to the teacher exemplar. How do they compare?
They annotated it and got the correct answer.
Yeah. What did you also notice that they did in their answer choices?
They eliminated ones that were wrong right off. Yeah. And left. They crossed out 2 of the answer choices that were obviously wrong, and then they were left with 2, and they then selected the best answer based on the 2.
And why were those 2 answer choices obviously wrong?
Because to describe and emphasize the intensity of the weather as they leaped eagerly into action has nothing to do with the intensity of the weather. I wouldn't use that phrase to describe weather. Then when they barked anxiously into the air, it was about the dogs that were in this harsh wilderness. And when they barked anxiously into the air, of course they could do that, but that has nothing to do with how intense the weather is.
Great. So now what I want to do is I want you to take 2 minutes to look at these student examples and identify the gap between these examples and the exemplar. You can write it down.
Do what?
So these are non-exemplars. I want you to take 2 minutes to look at these non-exemplars and identify the gap that you see.
Well, can I tell you now?
You go ahead.
For the non-exemplars, only one person got both of them wrong. They did annotate it, but yeah, they got the answer. Still got the answer wrong. The other 2, they only missed the first one. They got the second one correct. So the first one was what?
Yep. And
and they also
what's
all
the
picked
gap?
J instead of F, which was the correct answer. So J was the distractor.
Mm-hmm. And so what is the gap that led them to the distractor?
They struggled with what is actually relevant, if because based on the question, that's what it asks, and what details. Students. Because they also wouldn't. It says accomplish this goal, and the TOD standard. And the definition is determine the focus, and they must not have known the focus of the paragraph to understand which answer choice is correct. And talks about the dogs, intensity of the weather, and we talked about it in class. How would you, without looking at anything in the paragraph or answer choices, how would you emphasize that the weather is bad or it's beautiful out?
So I think you named it, so let's go ahead and stamp this. I want you to fill in the blank for me. Students did not accurately select relevant supporting details because they were unable to
because what?
Because they were unable to, and you fill in the blank.
Because they were unable to. You want me to say it again?
Yep, what you said.
They were unable to pick out what was relevant and which, or what was relevant details, and they had trouble determining the focus of the essay.
That's it, because they were unable to determine.
Or that paragraph.
Yep. Because they were unable to. Mm-hmm. Now go ahead and read it back to me.
Students did not select the correct answer, students did not, students did not select important or relevant material because they were unable to determine the focus of that paragraph and what was relevant.
Perfect. So now let's think about our reteach. Your overall average correct between your 5 classes was 62.5%. I calculated that for you. 62.5.
Because I was not able to.
So should we use a guided discourse or a model for this reteach?
Well, I guess if it's 70% or above.
60.
Well, yeah, but I thought mastery had to be 70 or above.
Yeah, for a guided discourse, 60% or above. Below is a model.
Okay, so guided discourse.
Great, okay. So I think the task that we should use for this one is
model number 1. makes it to good.
You can have a guided discourse, I think, between these two examples. The reason being is both of these students use process of elimination, and you could even model it like how you had students explain here. So if you put both of these up and then have students explain which answer choice or which student they think is correct and why, and then have a conversation about it.
Great.
Okay, so that's the task that we're gonna do. What I wanna do now is I wanna take 5 minutes and we're gonna write a script for the guided discourse, and then we'll spar. So 5 minutes to plan, and then we'll spar. Questions?
No.
Okay, I'll set a timer.
Alright.
I just one more enter something. Alright. That's fine. I feel like for the most part we have very similar like frames and models. Is there anything from mine that you can steal?
Yes, the stamp.
Mm-hmm. Great, go ahead and write that down.
Got it. Cool. Let's see.
Okay, so what I want to talk about now is when we can reteach this and setting a goal for mastery. So I'm pulling up your quarterly plan for the next couple of weeks. I would like to get it in before the IA. Is there
Before the IA, when's the IA?
the Monday of finals week? So is there a day that you could?
On the Monday of finals week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like
Monday of finals week, are we doing the star?
No, we're not doing star reading anymore.
Oh, we're not?
Mm-mm. You could do it this day.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna just comment on here for you.
Why aren't we doing star anymore?
We don't pay for it anymore. I'll double check with Newell, but I'm like 99% sure.
So how are they gonna test for reading and math from now on?
Well, okay, I know for sure we're not doing it in math. The last I heard, we didn't pay for it, but let me verify. Reteach. That was from Simmons, so I'm not 100% sure if that was just for incoming students we stopped paying for it or for the rest of the year. So, but regardless, I think you can do a quick reteach. You could even just make this the do now that day. Reteach, TOD 501. And then I think, what do you think an appropriate goal for mastery is?
I don't know, 75, 80%.
I think 80. And I'll put this here. 80% mastery. So once you're done with this, if you could just flag me with your mastery. And there isn't a ton of time to spiral it in, but will they see it on the Unit 2 exam before
Unit 1?
Unit 2 test?
Oh, quarter 2. No, they won't see it. It's for the IA. Like the TOD standards were, practice for the IA, what they struggled with.
Got it.
On IA 1.
So I think quarter 3, just thinking about like, this seems like an important standard that comes up, thinking about how you can spiral it into your, like what are some ways that you can spiral it into class?
Homework.
Mm-hmm.
Do now.
TOD. Great. Okay, that's all I have for you. Thank you. Here's all your papers back.